Hey there, Stephanie Joy with All Things Social Security and the Law Practice of Joy Disability. Here's a short little segment from our recent live stream Q&A that we have every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the YouTube channel, All Things Social Security. Enjoy, and if you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments, and I will be sure to get to them. Thanks so much. Bye-bye now.
Hey, guys. How is everybody? Shiloh, I see you are here bright and early with 5 million questions. We'll see. We'll get through them. But we'll probably jump around because I don't want to make everyone else not be heard. Are you? Dimple's in the house. Dimple says yes, she can hear us. Okay, good. Guys, you know Shannon Justice of Justice Disability. Shannon's in Kentucky, right? And Shannon, do you see the postings part? The
comments, yeah, I see them.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to put your website in there, so if anyone wanted to reach out to you, feel free. You know, you could just type it right in there. It'll come up on the page. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. It'll let me.
Okay. Anyway, so Shannon's been here before a couple times. So we're gonna share your questions, and you can see maybe a couple different perspectives and stuff like that. All right, so let's go back up to the start. I'm gonna start with, let's see, Jen Mee's in the house. Hi, Jen. Jen's got a hearing coming up. Not with me. She's got awesome representation elsewhere. Shannon says, hi, Stephanie and Shannon. Can hospitalizations, long-term treatment, psychotherapy notes, RFC evidence, enough evidence for excessive break absences to where the VE would have to acknowledge hypos as no jobs? Well, I have a way I want to word this a little differently. The question is, if the RFC says something, the VE gives you a pretty flat answer that anyone can look up in a book. So it's really what the hypo is that the judge does. Your job is to convince the judge of your RFC, not the VE. The VE goes with what he has to go with what the judge asks him. And the judge, you know what I mean? So your whole persuasion is to the judge, not to the VE. Shannon, what do you think? Am I reading that right?
I think so, yeah. The VE will say that there aren't any jobs, but it's based on the judge's hypothetical, and the hospitalizations and things like that are going to contribute, depending on what the issue is and how often they are, and things to that nature are going to also add to not just the excessive absences and breaks, but also to other aspects of the RFC, just depending on what the issues for the hospitalizations and things are.
Yeah, and Jen Me, remember, your attorney is going to, or your non-attorney rep, I think you have an attorney though, she's going to put that, let's say the judge asks RFCs hypotheticals where the RFCs don't mention absenteeism or off task. Your attorney's going to. So she's going to give like a 5th hypothetical or a 3rd or whatever, right? We always say, well, here,
always something.
Anytime she adds a question that adds a limitation, that's considered a new hypothetical. Even if she doesn't call it hypothetical number 4 after the 3 from the judge. You don't have to be all formal like that. I put that in to nearly every case because it literally is so true for anyone with from physical or mental. And if you have proof of absences and proofs of breaks, and that treatment you get, Jen, if it's frequent enough, can not only just show that for those 6 weeks, like if someone is, they have pancreatitis and they're in a hospital for 6 weeks, and that happens every year, 6 weeks of work is potentially going to, and it's recurring, be a job killer. Any other kind of hospitalizations where, you have to be in. Because it is absenteeism. One could argue, well, FMLA would cover 12 weeks, but I don't know that that's something they're allowed to consider. They're not allowed to consider, they can get an accommodation. That's not considered a job in substantial numbers. So,
and depending on what the hospitalization is for, and the recurrence of those hospitalizations can also trigger a meeting of a listing as well. So it's just too many options.
Right. It shows the
yes, it's going to help
as well as the absenteeism.
Yeah, but it is going to help in the overall RFC, yes.
And get it well documented. I mean, being in a hospital is already documented, and that would be pointed out in the proof. Like, if that were me doing a brief, one of my arguments is the schedule, the need for treatment, and the hours it encompasses or the days are so overwhelming. It's inconsistent with full-time, reliable work. That would probably be. If it's a case like that, that would probably be one of my pieces in there specifically. I mean, a lot of times the absenteeism people are talking about is more sporadic, which you might be also talking about, Jen. For the ones that are like, I was just home because I didn't feel good today, and I didn't function within my home very well. Those are harder to prove because they're subjectively stated and they're not in the record. So that's why I always say, periodically, feed your providers what your day-to-day, like in terms of task limitations because of symptoms. I mean, I'm to the point where providers are such poor recorders and listeners that I'm having, I'm often suggesting, in between, if your visits are 3 months apart, send them something in the middle, and whether it's through the portal messaging, or which, by the way, will not generally, as I understand it, still come out if you download the portal records. It's a lacking on their part. I can't believe they don't include it. But
You
if
can get to it, but you have to go into the
screenshot, it's nasty,
Yeah,
right? Each one, one way or another, you're going to want to get, if that's an issue, that kind of proof in that record. So worst comes to worst, you portal message them, then you screenshot them if you have to. This is what a judge told me. If the judge's office does a HITMER, that's the automated ordering of the records, because the SSA has a prearranged contractual arrangement agreement with that big health network. It's usually big health networks. Always with your 827, they now have the authority to go in and do a HITMER, which is hot. I don't even know what it stands for. And they can download the full set, which should include all those messages. But when you do it through the portal, it doesn't work the same way. Yeah. And I think they need to legally change that, but that's just me. Or you could fax in a letter if you don't have a portal. It's a mom and pop, and I would believe by law, they probably have to put that in your medical file. And so by law, if they get a medical records order, they have to copy the whole thing and send it to you, or send it to the OHO or whoever orders it. So important, particularly for medical, those absences that are based on symptoms that no one knows but you and your family, So that's a way to kind of get it to show up in there a little more concretely. And it's showing up from a year ago by the time you get to your hearing. So it's not like you're just testifying to it. Well, Judge, 3 days a week, I'm literally in bed with pervasive depression. It just wakes me out and I can't, or whatever the situation is. Ricardo, giving lots of loving. Ricardo says, you two are famous. Really? I wouldn't go that far. But you're sweet. Jenny says, I gave my therapist sentence notes up until my first ALJ hearing, and I'm actually not giving them for the remand hearing. Giving updated RFC. Technically, are you aware of this rule, Shanna? Came about a few years back, maybe like less than 10, I'm thinking. You are obligated to send any records, good, bad, or ugly, in your possession. Sometimes I tell people, don't go get them if you think they're going to be bad. Like, just, if the SSA wants to get them, by all means. You can't hold back legally. And I'm not familiar with any cases where the SSA went after anybody because somehow they determined that you had them and didn't give them up. I mean, how do they prove that? And do they have the resources to even try to do that? I just wanted to tell you what the legal requirement is. So it used to be, because it's a non-adversarial process, that wasn't like a stated rule. Maybe it was an expectation. Now it's a stated. And that's true of us too, as representatives. And I tell my people, I'm like, listen, if it looks bad, I still got to send it in, and I will send it in.
Even though we want to cry when we do it, we have to send it.
Right. And so then the goal is, yeah.
Because hers is like, wasn't it mental health? So that would benefit her regardless, unless they're not saying anything, which is not her fault. But not sending them makes it look like she's not getting that treatment either. So it definitely needs to be sent anyways.
I just got a load of dogs that just entered my office because the babysat dog my daughter is letting out, and she's had a few squabbles with one of our old crabby dogs. So for the little dogs, the mid-sized dog safety, the visitor, I'm like, they're coming in here. I would show them to you guys, but it's a pain. And plus Tasha's here. Yeah. Sometimes when we have to send in stuff that we don't like, and I wonder if Jen might be talking about, I see this a lot. The therapist notes say they all within normal limits. So she's doing okay today. And they don't say anything else that makes a clearer picture. And that is damaging. That is very damaging. And this is why I say therapists, a lot of them are incompetent. They hate me. But if that's the case, I wonder if I found out from one guy who explained to me why they do that. He worked for an entity that I guess gets probably Medicaid. And he said, we have to say that. He goes, I know for a fact that this guy, shut your mouth, that this guy would probably be dead without this therapy. He is holding his own. He cannot go to work. He gets through basic life because he has this backup. This is as far as we can get him. So in order to keep treating him and getting paid by Medicaid, this is my understanding, we have to say that he's doing well, because otherwise we're not
doing their job.
The perception is that
Yeah.
we're not doing it. He doesn't need it anymore. And you're not, because if they said he wasn't doing well, it's like, well, then you're not serving his needs. But sometimes getting him off of, say, dying of suicide is doing wonders in keeping him copacetic, but you can't throw him into a full-time job. That would completely destroy his psyche. So it is a tough one. And this guy explained it to me and how he almost got fired because I did ask and he did give me a synopsis, and it was really generous of him. And then I said, just send it to me. Don't even put it in his record. Screw the bosses, because the SSA is not going to share it to them. Like, this is very confidential when it comes to me, to the SSA. That's the only people that are going to see it. You don't have to share it to anybody else. But he had, I guess maybe I didn't say that to him beforehand or whatever. But he had it in the regular file, and then maybe his supervisor, I don't know what it was, but he almost got his butt fired. So he wasn't going to do it again for us. We did end up winning the case, but it took another round, I will say. It took another round. It's troublesome. It's a problem. So you almost want to, if there's a way to find out therapists who actually do their job and are not kowtowing to the almighty dollar, are not dependent on a Medicaid, entity that they work for who says that this is the case, or maybe if they just learned how to write their records more accurately and say, he's at baseline, and because of therapy, he is, and his sheltered environment that he lives in, which is no work demands, he is not experiencing suicidal this or that, or it could be panic attack, whatever, the person's diagnosis. It's this structured and sheltered environment, including our wonderful therapy, that is preventing that. I mean, it's got to be creative, and it's accurate. It's truth, I don't know. Good question though, Jen. Very good question. Jen says, I'm glad records aren't required. Well, oh, you mean psychotherapy notes? Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, but once you get them in your hand, if you have them in your hand, that's the problem I was talking about before about having to submit them. They weren't enough the first time, and the second ALJ just used and abused the details in the first set in a very mentally harmful way. Yeah. Could be Dreams says, I'm in the Recon phase. I got a letter just like that about I have some limitations, but not enough to approve. Gotcha. Did you get a letter on Recon? So is that a Recon denial, Coob? So me and my attorney filed a reconsideration. We've updated my medical records and treatment. Probably is what he's ending in. Yeah, that's all you can do. If your attorney can get the DDE from the initial denial, it might tell you a little bit about what they found, where they found that you were at, that your medical record said you were at, when you know that you're worse off than that. Do you do that now, Shannon, now that they give that to us?
Yes. Look at everything, because what you can't find in one spot, you can find there in little pieces to get to the puzzle. It's come in handy.
Yeah. I mean, we can kind of sometimes figure out if it's a physical case. They obviously put them at this RFC. It's just going to be an automatic. But, sometimes they have it. It might not be. It might be a good RFC, but then they found they could do it prior work. So it wasn't the RFC. Ricardo says, is working online considered a good factor or a bad factor in any case? Well, that would depend. You want to go with that?
Depends on how many hours and what you're doing and what your medical issues are.
Working some, so many things.
Yeah. Working some is not about, people have to live and pay their bills. So they understand that, but you have to be under the SGA. And that if you're doing like call center work, but then you're supposedly got mental health issues and can't be around people, that's not going to fly. It just depends on the situation.
It's so, yeah, I agree. It's so fact specific. Mm-hmm. It's like getting through the weeds. You really got to do that. I will say that when the questions never ask about, do you work from home, like a computer person or something, or do you go to an office? And I don't offer it up because it's not asked. Because if they're working from home, I don't want that to be considered now. That's how their job was actually performed. So that all those things about being in an office that would prevent them from working now no longer apply. So I'm like, hey, unless the SSA asks me for that, I'm not giving it up. And it doesn't ask it on the work history report. So let's see. Jonathan's in the house. I had my perk SSI denied and SSDI yes. Okay. So you had too much money for SSI, but SSDI, you could be a wealthy man, Jonathan. Right, Shannon?
Then nothing.
That's the proper take, would you say? Like, all right, so the finances, Jonathan.
Better to not qualify for SSI if possible. You can get a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I think you're doing better in the end. And particularly, again, if you're going to go back to work part-time, it's much easier to do on SSDI than SSI. Half Pint's in the house. Hi, Half Pint.